the rise of vaults is becoming more of a story on Wall Street. I think Goldman did a piece the other day that was, again, fairly glowing and understanding that the movement is something to keep an eye on. You guys at Bitwise are doing, extraordinary work with vaults, but I think the audience probably knows that vaults exist, but they don't understand necessarily what they are. If you can take some time to deconstruct what vaults are, how they work, and why they matter, I'll just give you the floor because it's an important subject.
Yeah, well, vaults are really just the next evolution of asset management. If you look back, and you kind of need a bit of a history lesson here, which I will keep short, to understand why vaults matter and why vaults are going to happen, right? Like it's predetermined, really. The first fund that was ever created back in asset management was like in the 1700s, and there was this guy in Holland who said, look, investors want to pool their capital and get access to bonds, and so he created a fund structure to do that, but it was super inefficient for a bunch of different reasons. Liquidity was low, was hard to expand beyond a certain number of investors, etc. Okay, great. So that was like 250 years ago. The next evolution came in the 1920s with mutual funds, which was another step in innovation. And why that mattered was because now you had more liquidity around these funds. You actually had daily NAVs being struck, etc. Then you had the 1970s with index funds. That was another innovation. Now you get broad exposure to a bunch of different assets in one fund structure. It was more accessible. It was less expensive than buying individual assets for the investor. Then you had ETFs. About 20 years later, that became extremely popular. ETFs have grown from zero to more than 20 trillion in 30 years because they're extremely liquid. They're accessible by anyone, particularly today with an internet connection and a brokerage account, and they have intraday liquidity. You can wrap any kind of asset inside of an ETF. You can wrap index funds, you can wrap commodities, you can wrap digital assets like Bitcoin, etc. Those have grown into a 20 trillion plus industry because of that. And then you have vaults, which is the next evolution of asset management. And why I walk through that journey is because every step of the way, the reason you've seen adoption of things like mutual fund, then index funds, then ETFs, and why we will see vaults is because every step in the evolution of asset management has made accessing investments less expensive, more liquid, more accessible, and more efficient. It's just the way of technology. And that's why vaults, which are just funds being brought on blockchains to give you 24/7, 365 real-time settlement, it reduces counterparty risk and increases accessibility. You can put any kind of asset inside a vault once you tokenize it. That's the reason that we're going to see this huge migration of assets on chain and into vaults. Our view, we actually said this at the beginning of the year in our 2026 predictions piece, was that vaults are the new ETFs. And so that kind of history or context, the reason that we said that, in essence, saying vaults are tiny, less than 10 billion going into the beginning of the year. And we believe it's going to grow into the trillions over the next few years as all different types of assets move on chain.